All right, well, welcome to week one of your PQ practice. It's good to see you back here after our kickoff call. I really enjoyed that kickoff call last week. I hope you guys did too. It was fun to just hear a little bit more from everybody and have you guys start to get to know each other. So before we dive in, I would love to just hear a word or two of how each of you are feeling as you come into today. So you can just shout it out. I won't call on people for this one.
Um, I'm still excited.
Yeah.
Mm,
Fine.
Optimistic. Optimistic, sorry.
Optimistic. Yeah. What did you say, Gina? Fine?
Fine. I'm fine. Yeah.
Fine. You're fine. Okay, great. Awesome. All right. I am going to pull up the slide on the screen. So we'll be talking today about self-command and the work that you started in this last week. So hopefully everybody was able to start that. So we'll do this. We'll do a little check-in and do some PQ reps. Then we're going to follow up from our kickoff call, just wrap some things up. We'll review the self-command materials and then have some pod discussion before we close it out at the end. So we just did that check-in. So let's do a little bit of guided PQ reps. So all of these practices, we'll try to do it a little bit differently every week so you get a feel for different ways of doing PQ reps, but we always want to start with that and get grounded. So invite you to close your eyes and sit up straight. If you're able to put your feet on the floor, do that. And so we're going to focus today using the sense of touch. And so start with rubbing two fingers together, paying close attention to the details that you notice as you do that. So maybe temperature or texture, maybe you notice pressure and how that feels differently. Just spend about 30 seconds noticing what you notice. And whenever your mind wanders to something else, that's normal, but just bring it back to focusing on the sensations that you notice as you rub those fingers together. And now just in front of you, grab an item that's in front of you. And if you need to open your eyes to do that, go ahead and then just grab whatever that item is, hold that in your hand or rub your hands against that item. And as you do that, again, just notice things that you might overlook otherwise. So maybe you notice shape or texture. Maybe you notice the sensation of whatever the material is. Just see what you notice. Okay, great work. You can put the item down, and when you're ready, open your eyes. So with PQ reps, you're always welcome to do them with eyes open or closed. The reason that I do them eyes closed when we can in situations like this is when your eyes are closed, your brain actually has way more receptors connected to your eyes than any other thing happening with your body. So when your eyes are open, and that's why it's extra easy to be distracted or to think about other things because your eye and brain connection, there's so many things happening. When you close your eyes, it's just a little bit easier to focus. However, part of the practices you're going to learn over time is how can I do PQ reps? How can I integrate this into my life without interruption? So finding ways to do practices like paying attention to texture and touch that don't require you to have to close your eyes or go separate in a separate place, but like you could be in a room of people and put your fingers together and they'll never know that you're doing a PQ rep, but you know you are. Or you can feel like something on your desk or feel the fabric you're wearing without anybody noticing that you're doing it, but you know that that's what you're doing. So great practice. A little bit of housekeeping. Remember, we agreed to those group norms that this is a place for us to be honest and vulnerable, and we are showing up, doing our best to not judge each other or ourselves. If you have not sent me your PQ score yet, please do that this week so that we've got a measurement at the beginning and we'll be able to do it middle and end. Adding this weekly time and prioritizing pod meetings and then being present and engaged. So that reminder, are you guys hearing can you hear the leaf blower in the background? No, okay. No, you never know what picks up and what doesn't, but they're literally blowing like right outside my window. I was like, oh, way, but you guys can't hear, so it's good. And being present and engaged. So if there's anything that is distracting you right now, just ask that you turn that off or put that aside because we want to be present and focused in this time. So following up from our kickoff call, I want to start, and there was some prompting inside of the material to have you start thinking about this, but sharing a goal that you've set for yourself for your PQ work in these coming weeks that feels energizing and motivating. So I would love to hear from everybody. So again, reminder, what we'll do in this pod is I'll call the first person, and after you share, you call the next person. So I'm going to start with Jeanette.
Sorry.
Okay.
I don't remember what I put in my app. I just know that when I recognize like sabotaging behavior, I want to be able to pivot faster to I don't know if I'm answering the question properly. I hope I am.
Yeah, so if you're totally answering it correctly. So what I'll do when you guys talk is just to coach through to clarify some of the goal, because what I want you to walk away with is something that feels like really clear and motivating. Like that sounds really great. So if you, Jeanette, were able to catch your saboteurs and pivot away from them more quickly, what would that give you? Like, what is the gift of being able to do that?
I think that I would just be a lot more productive instead of wallowing in what's the worst that can happen. I'd be more intentional in the moment of like, what can I do right now with the space that I'm in or what I have or anything like that.
Yeah. So what I hear from that, and shift this if this doesn't work, but what I hear is that your goal is to be more productive and to stay in action versus like negative thoughts.
Right.
Yep. So does that sound like energizing or motivating to you, like being more in action and more productive?
Yes, it does.
Awesome. So see, like just the little shift from being like, okay, I'm going to catch my saboteurs to be like, I'm doing that because really I want to feel more productive and to, be present and to take action, right? Like that's really what you're looking for. So you'll do that by catching those saboteurs. Yeah, I love it. Okay, you pick who goes next.
I'm gonna go with Gina.
I also didn't remember what my goal was. But I think my goal is to be more confident and learn to celebrate myself.
So that's a great goal. I will say, just in case anybody wants to review, you can access the things that you have already put into your app. If you go to inside the app, which also, by the way, obviously this is something that's very common. We write a goal and it feels like we're aligned and we're in it, and then we forget what we wrote, right? Because we're not revisiting it. So part of this practice is also to remember, like, why am I doing this? What is my goal? Okay, so inside of the module, there should be at the top, do you see something that says recap is available? So if you click on that, it should pull up. Oh wait, that's just the recap, sorry. Oh yeah, no, that's it. No.
It's in if you go to welcome, the modules, and then welcome, and then establish vision and goals.
Yes, there is also, I was just trying to find, because there's a place that, there's a place that is accumulating all the things that you write in. So I was trying to find that for you, because it will be, you won't have to go back to a particular space. It just accumulates everything that you are putting together. So I think that's actually might have been it. Oops. Thanks for bearing with me. Everything is different in the new setup, so I'm always like, where is it? Yeah, so if you look at that recap, the first thing on the recap should be what would be the most inspiring and significant change you want to create, and then whatever you answered would be there, right? And then this will continue to accumulate as the weeks go on. Everything you're answering will be on like this recap, so you'll be able to see. So if you want to revisit that. Okay, so Gina, more confident and celebration. When you look at that, is there anything that would shift because of what you wrote there?
Yeah, I'm gonna change it.
Okay.
Get reinvigorated about my purpose.
Reinvigorated about your purpose.
Mhm.
And what is that going to do? Like if you're reinvigorated with your purpose, what's the result of that going to be?
That I can like be excited about life and the things that I do in it again, instead of just being on autopilot.
Yeah. So that sounds really inspiring, like being excited about life and off of autopilot.
Mhm.
I think that's great. I love it. Okay, who goes next?
Stacy.
Miles.
Miles.
Does it say CC on my phone?
It says Stacy. Stacy Grant. Yeah.
Oh, it does? CC Grant?
Yeah. Stacy. Yeah. It says Stacy Grant.
Oh, Stacy. Okay, I got you. Oh yeah, that's my wife. Well,
Yeah.
her maiden name. But so I for my goal, it still is, I would say more of a positive mindset, but also less judgment onto myself and others.
Mhm. And when you're judging yourself and others less, what's the gift of that?
It goes hand in hand with the positive mindset, which is I think less in my mind and more focused on just not only being happy but just feeling happy. Just it goes all around just peace of mind. Um,
Yeah.
I guess being less in it, like having less depressive states, less anxious states, and more just peace of mind.
Yeah. I'm hearing the thing that I hear underneath that is like being present, like really being present and happy about the present, which I
Hmm.
think is incredible. So less in your mind, more present and happy in the moment. Yeah.
Yes, man.
Sounds amazing. I like it.
Well, Michael's last.
My apologies for hopping in late.
Welcome. We're glad you're here.
So I didn't get through everything in the videos, but I think I know where we're at to happen. So what I want to get is focused and clear about the things I'm passionate and love and want to work towards and build on, and not deviate from those things with shiny objects. And I guess what that looks like is like simple, organized, like clear task lists, zero inbox, good schedule that all go towards that core goal and not all these distractions.
So what I hear at the core of that is clarity and focus on a consistent goal. Does that align?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I like it. Does that feel inspiring to you?
No, it's limiting.
Yeah. So that let's talk about that. What makes it feel limiting?
To there's like all these ideas and exciting things that I want to be working on and have going. And my past, I take a job or a company, I get good at it in a year, and then I get bored, and then I need the new challenge or the new. I just abandon stuff within a year to 2 years is my. But I want to build something bigger that's like, so.
Yeah.
It,
So what
it's-
about, so you're getting bored, so bored, like you're worried, like your brain is like, I'm gonna be bored if I stick to the same thing. So it sounds limiting. Is that the limiting part?
like I never want to be complacent. I always want to be stretching. I always want to be expanding. And
Yeah. So, I mean, this will become very apparent as you can continue in the work through these coming weeks. That's 100% a restless voice. The restless voice is like, I don't want to be complacent. I don't want to get bored. That is, that is the part that keeps the restless part around. So another thought about how to approach this is to say, I want to find excitement in building on the same idea. I want to find excitement or growth within the idea that is clear to me versus like making it feel like picking one road to go down means you can't have new ideas and you can't be expansive in your thoughts. They're just expansive and creative thoughts directed toward the same goal. Does that feel any different?
yeah.
How might you improve upon that so that it feels more like, yes, I like that. It doesn't feel like a punishment to me to set this goal. It feels like inviting.
Well, having the finish line in mind and the opportunity of seeing it through and like why I jumped into it in the first place. And then like how a business plan should be fluid or like goals should be reevaluated in milestones. And like if you start a company in one place, it can evolve into a different product or service or something, and not being as kind of just I committed to this, I have to do this, and I have to make this work. So maybe just like more self reflection on that ongoingly to re-spark the next milestone or get myself excited about the next week and what I'm going to accomplish or something.
Okay. So maybe too, as you finish the modules, you might have some inspiration about like how you want to say that. So let us know, like post it in the group when you rewrite that so that it feels inspiring and exciting to you versus a like, I'm doing this because I have to, because that's kind of what's happened. That's why I was like, does that sound exciting to you? Because I could tell that it's more like, okay, I should be like this. So I'm setting this as my goal because I should be like this. But the
Yeah,
idea of being like that is not actually like, oh, I'm excited to be like that.
yeah. And like not to get into the baggage of it, but I've had bad business partnerships and I have trust issues. So when it comes to
Yeah.
building a team and delegating, I want to do it all myself, but then that doesn't allow me to free me up to, do these next
Yeah.
steps.
Yeah. So that's all. And I'll just say this as a whole for everybody. Like, for sure, we're going to bring our baggage in here because that's why we're here. We've got baggage and there's stuff that's, going to happen. Identifying and seeing that, like, I know that I have this baggage that's causing me to have some doubts. Like, if that wasn't there, what would be the thing that would excite you? And I don't want you to answer that now because I actually want you to like think about it and spend some time like you processing through that. Like, you can identify what your blocks are and what tells you I can't say that, but then thinking about connecting to the why of like, why do I want to be consistent? So, like when I was saying to Danette, like, what is it going to give you if you do this and this? If you catch your saboteur more quickly, it's not really about the task of catching the saboteur. It's about what you're going to get because you caught that saboteur. So same for you. Like, it's not really about I was consistently talking about this one idea or staying on track. It's about what the return is by doing that. And then if that's not exciting to you, then the goal should change because you're not going to want to stay on board with it, right? We should feel excited about the goal that we're setting, even if it feels like we're not sure how we're going to do it. We failed trying it before, but it should feel exciting. Like, oh, I'm looking forward to this. Not, I just better do it because I'm just been so bad at doing it before and I better just get it right this time because then we're already in saboteur. Make sense?
Yep.
So think about that and then post in the group when you have something that feels like compelling to you.
Okay.
If you need more help working through it, you can also post and be like, hey, this is where I'm at. Does anybody have thoughts? We can chime in with each other.
Thanks.
Okay. All right. So sage accountability. So Michael, you already started to answer this, but sage accountability without judgment, but just using this as the space, we talked about last time, like not wanting to be like, we don't want to let it slide, but also don't want to be like hard on each other about it, but just the accountability of, did you watch this week's video? So if you got through all the material, give me a thumbs up. If you did not, give me a thumbs down, and there's no judgment. We're just doing a check-in.
I have a
Just a check-in.
question.
Yeah.
How many, which videos?
So the welcome in week 1.
So just the welcome, everything in it, and then week 1 and everything in that.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. So see, we're half and half. Half got through it, half did not. It's normal. So then the next question is, for those who got it done, what worked well for you? Like what helped you get through it before today? And then for those who didn't, what hindered you from doing it? And what might you do in the coming week to make an adjustment with that? So we'll start with Miles, like what helped you get through the material?
I think not necessarily what helped me get through, but like, well, what helped me get through was just having enough time. Like I had the space, and then lately I'll just keep my notifications up for a reminder. So when I do have that space, I can like, oh, look at my phone and be like, oh, I got time to do that. I can do that real quick. So I think taking segment by segment, also getting through it. That of course you can't do it during the PQ rest, but like with the Shazar talk, I put it on like you can speed up the video like you mentioned before. So I'll put on like 1.25 or 1.5, and I mean you get depending on um, how fast you can engage or whatever. But I got all of it, so I think that helps. Just
Yeah. So
making sure I have enough time.
you created time. You also didn't expect yourself to get it all done in one sitting, right? Like you did it in segments. And then because you learn decently, even when it's on 1 point whatever, you
Hmm.
did that, right? So you made it work for you. Yep. Great. Those are awesome. How about you, Jeanette?
I mean, this weekend was my mom weekend, well, my me weekend. So I was really able to like sit through it and the audiobook. And that's really what helped me mostly. But there were days where I kind of had to not cram, but I felt more capacity to get through a lot at once. You know what I mean? But I don't know, I'm just really excited about it. So I'm just like, and also the PQ gym, that is so cool. I really, really love that. Because when you're feeling in a moment of like, okay, I gotta reset, just having the access to that is really, really cool. I don't know, maybe that's just me.
Yeah. No. Also, just encouragement. You don't have to qualify anything. So like, maybe that's just me. No, don't worry about qualifying anything. In fact, every time you catch that, you celebrate that you caught it. Like, I didn't have to say, like, maybe it's just me, or does that make sense? Or because those are all saboteurs making you second guess. What you said made perfect sense, and you're not the only one. There's a reason the gym's there. It's helpful. Doesn't mean everybody's going to feel the exact same, but we have it there because it's a helpful tool. Yeah, for sure. I love it. Okay, Gina, what got in your way?
Honestly, just the timing. I just miscalculated the timing, so I feel like I was like doing a lot in the mornings, and whenever it would come up with I just kind of got confused with the timing.
Yeah. So it's also new, like you didn't know the structure yet. Now you know, so it's there. Yeah. What will help you get back on track?
Um, knowing the timing. Now I can just like do it because I usually do these in the morning anyway with my morning pages, and so I'll just do more of them in the morning.
Yeah, great. Awesome. How about for you, Michael?
So I'm packing to get on the road to move to Illinois. I was supposed to leave this morning, and I'm not packed all the way and get the house ready to list. So I'm just reactive and freaking out and staying up all night. And then I think like I haven't done exactly this kind of work, but I've done other programs like this. And I'm not treating it like something that's going to make a huge difference. It's just like another thing that I'm checking the box. And so I'm not prioritizing it like a huge opportunity to really have a transformational shift.
Yeah, that's really insightful. That's a really insightful thing to say. So what will help you, given that you know you're in a big transition period, there's a lot happening, there's a lot of pull to like, do other things and not prioritize it. What would help you get back on track?
I mean, it's very simple and almost embarrassing, but I don't have a schedule structure at all, and I don't have like a planner structure. I just switched to iPhone from Android after years a couple days ago. So I'm getting used to that calendar, and I go from like digital calendar, and then I have 3 paperclip calendars, but there's no source of truth, and I don't even pay attention when the events come up. Like I have a doctor's appointment this afternoon. I called them to get a prescription refill, and they're like, "You're driving out of town. Are you going to be at the appointment in person?" And I was like, "Oh, we better change that to telemed." But like, I'm just not even. I'm like so irresponsible with my schedule and everything right now. So just something as simple as having like a planner schedule that I stick to, that I pay attention to, has been a huge missing in my life for a couple months that I need to get back in place.
So is it realistic to like decide on what that planner system is and start doing that like right away, or is that something that's going to take some time to do?
I mean, like by next week, I should have it in place.
So, which is great. So I just try to be realistic because I know how it is. Also, remember, restless is like my number one. So I get restless. I get restless intimately, especially when you're in transition. Having to decide on what that thing is going to be when things are chaotic is already a difficult task. So what in the meantime, because if you wait until it feels like, okay, now I have space to make this bigger decision connected to how I'm going to organize my whole life, that means you're going to keep putting this off, and then you'll be further behind because another video will come out on Friday. So between now and Friday, when you're in the chaos, what could help you that's not as big as like getting everything all in the same planner? What could help you prioritize this?
I don't know.
Okay. So a couple of thoughts
just-
and maybe use as, go ahead.
Like I'm driving 2 days up to Illinois today, tomorrow. And then my dad's retirement party's Thursday. And then I'm going to be up with family for the first weekend. And so it's just going to be packed with crap, and it's just going to be nonstop and no sitting down, no time.
So you just said you're you're going to be in your car for a long time. Can you listen while you're in your car?
Yeah, totally.
Right? So integrate it. Don't like, this is for everybody, right? So thank you just for like letting us explore this, but this is for everybody. A lot of times what will happen and get in the way of doing these practices is like wanting to like block it all together, or like if you get behind, then you're like, I got to do all the things, instead of finding like, okay, what's the simplest way and what can I integrate into what's already happening? Because kind of like how you were talking, Miles, like you're like, oh, I have a little spot here, I can listen to one module and another time. So Michael, you've got this whole time in the car, you could put it, connect your phone to your speaker and just listen. You don't have to watch the video, it can be playing, but you can just listen. Right. And then you can come back to the things to fill out because you can't do that. Or do it by voice to text, like when for
Mhm.
the things you want to fill out. So if you do that, that's already in your schedule, right? So you could catch up for week 1 when you're in the car driving. And then
Mhm.
for week 2, you've got like, okay, you'll be with family, but will you be with family talking 24/7 when you're with them?
Mhm.
Like finding
No, like
space
I
in there
stay
too.
up late, so usually when they go to bed, I hop on my computer and get emails done and stuff.
Yeah.
What works for me is like if I do the next week's stuff right after we get off this call, but
Mhm.
I never do that because I procrastinate and push it off because it's not a top priority. But yeah, so
Yeah. So that's the other question to ask yourself of like knowing that you made the commitment now, like that there was a reason that was driving you, what would create that priority? So there's probably a lot of layers in there. There's maybe some
Mhm.
skepticism, like nothing else worked. This is probably not going to work either. Or what if it works and it doesn't feel good to me because I don't like how I'm going to feel too confined or whatever. There could be all kinds of stuff going on, but
Mhm.
just start with those small things. You know what? I don't have to get I don't have to have it all figured out from now until the end of the program, but this week, what could I do to catch up? How does my week look and how does it fit? Let me just start with that. Yeah. Instead of like the whole perfect, like ideally, you want to get to the place you're using a planner for everything. But that's you see, that's like a bigger step. So
Can I make
awesome.
a suggestion just to possibly help?
Yeah.
Uh, like, are you good at kind of like listening while typing in a way? Like while you're doing your emails, you could probably just be playing it in the background and at least get some of that information. I mean, that's just one suggestion. Like, you know how I know some people like to listen to music while they're doing
Yeah,
and getting back to their emails. It would be like the same situation.
yeah. Um, yeah. I I tend to like try to do all 5 things at once when there's like 10 priority tasks, so none of them get done. So my thought there is like I would be trying to do them both, and maybe neither of them would really get done. But totally.
What I like about what you said, Miles, is thinking again, it's thinking about what am I already doing that I can combine where it works. So it might not be emails where you have to be focused on the thing that you're writing, but maybe it's like something that is happening that doesn't require all of your attention. Like I'm doing the dishes or I'm packing a box and
Mhm.
listening. It doesn't require all of your attention like an email might, but it's something that's happening in your day. So just think about that. We don't have to like I don't want to take the whole time to like find the exact solution,
Yeah.
but I like the suggestion of just again thinking of how can you integrate it with things that are already happening. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. So reviewing self-command, which is the topic of this week. So your mind is on autopilot. So Gina, you use that word specifically, right? Your mind is on autopilot. You have so many thoughts every day. You've had 500 thoughts in the last hour and probably only are aware of a very small amount of what those actually were. And so self-command is you taking back control and saying, listen, instead of this just happening on autopilot, I am getting in the practice of taking back control of what my mind is focused on, even if that's only for 30 seconds or a minute at a time. I'm getting in that practice. Every time you get in that practice, even if your mind immediately wants to wander and think about something else, just the practice of being like, I am going to practice bringing my mind back no matter how many times I have to do it, just for 30 seconds. And I'm not judging myself that my mind went somewhere else. I'm just practicing. I'm getting in the habit of self command and coming off of autopilot. So we want to know the hand on the hot stove analogy. We do want the feedback when something is negative or hurtful. We want that feedback to know there's something to pay attention to and something that we might need to shift. But anything longer than that second of the alert means your saboteur is active. So anytime you're staying in those negative thoughts for more than a second, your saboteurs are activating, keeping your hand on the hot stove. Self-command is the practice of being like, I'm going to take my hand off the hot stove, even if I don't know where I'm putting my hand yet. I don't know how to fix my hand yet, but I'm at least going to practice taking my hand off of that hot stove. Everything's based on factor analysis, which basically means we've taken all this information and found the commonalities and made it a more simple process based on what's the common denominators. And then habit formation strategies. So thinking about habit stacking, incorporating new habits. So PQ reps, incorporating those into things that are already happening in your life. So when you guys were doing the activity where it talked about like parts of your day and what kind of PQ you might be able to do with it, what were the parts of your day that you guys were saying like, oh, okay, I'm doing this, like I'm brushing my teeth and I can do a PQ rep, or I'm drinking my coffee? What were some parts of your day that you identified as possible ways to like add in the PQ habit?
I was saying, just like the brushing my teeth, that first sip of coffee, gotta acknowledge that. And just even getting ready in the car. I would say like the last couple days, I was noticing that I was just grateful to, because you know, Kelly, like I lost my car in one of the hurricanes because Florida's wonderful. But I'm still here. I have a car, I'm mobile. It just, even though it wasn't a physical, tangible feeling, it was just a thought of like gratitude and just being in that moment. So while I'm driving, where I could easily zone out and I'm still paying attention, but you know what I mean? You know, when we drive, we just, so that, and then at night when I'm doing like my self-care, I just try to like really acknowledge like, you know, what I'm doing in the moment. So I thought that
Yeah,
that really helped me a lot.
those are really great examples. Anybody else find some fun places to stack in some PQ reps?
Just like she said, in the morning when I'm getting ready or on my commute, just feeling the steering wheel. I think anytime I have like a little bit more down moments versus like in at work when I'm working, I think it's easier to do it then.
Yep, for sure. And practicing in the ways that are easier, especially in the beginning, is great. As you build the muscle, it'll become easier to do it while other things are happening, which is where we want to get to, right? So you don't want to have to be like, I can only control where my mind goes when I have silence, right? You want to be able to get to the point where you're like, I can have chaos happening around me and I can direct where my mind goes. I have command. But you start that by doing it in the spaces that are the easiest to do that. I'm in the commute, I'm doing the commute, I'm brushing my teeth, and all the things where you have a little bit of isolation already that's a great way to start building that muscle. Cool. All right. Did any questions come up as you were going through this material for those who have gone through it, or for the parts that you guys did go through? Any questions, thoughts, confusion, ahas that happened just based on the material? Okay.
I did like that analogy that he mentioned about the hand over the hot stove. I know you just mentioned it a couple minutes ago. But that's, you know, obviously you kind of feel a little redundant. Like, why do I want to keep feeling this pain, or why do I want to keep feeling this resentment or regret? But that's something that I actually should write that in one of my goals. Just the pivot of shifting, you know, your hand off the stove analogy, so that you're not constantly in a state of why and this hurts. And it just, that really resonated a lot with me. But like you said, just the self-command that, you know, I'm really hopeful that I get to a point.
Yeah. And that's beautiful, Jeanette. And you will continue to have more and more tools like as the weeks go on for those exact pieces. But it's beautiful to even think about right now, whether or not you choose to keep feeling those things or thinking those things, but even the awareness, and to be able to go, why do I feel the pull or the desire to keep feeling the negative thing? Even if you don't have an answer, even if you decide to keep feeling the negative thing, even bringing that awareness is a part that's getting you out of autopilot. Because right now you're all just in autopilot. We're all in autopilot until we take time and go, hold on, what is actually happening here? And where you guys are right now is really just the beginning of like starting to notice those things, to become aware of what is happening on autopilot. You don't yet have to fix it, but sometimes even just the awareness will start to shift it. Like just the awareness of like, you know what, why do I feel like I have to keep feeling like this? And I don't want to keep feeling like this. Sometimes just that awareness will release it. Sometimes it won't, and that's okay. But I just want to encourage all of you, like right now, you're like where you're at in this system, this new tools is really just learning to identify what's happening right now on autopilot. And then as we move through the weeks, you'll learn more tools of like, how do you shift that autopilot? But right now, even learning and seeing and identifying that autopilot is happening is a win because it's been happening without acknowledging it to this point, right? So it's great. So just a few housekeeping things. Just remember in your morning routine. So we talked about that a little bit, like with brushing your teeth, drinking your coffee. It's important. One of the reasons why we want to stress doing PQ reps first thing or listening to that focus of the day as soon as you can is because really, number one is because when you're first waking up, that's when your mind is the most open and receptive for new information. So introducing something that's positive and gets you focused for the day, doing that first thing will set you up for more success throughout your day. The other thing is we know exactly to Gina's point that as your day gets started and more is happening, it can be harder to stop it because now we're just on autopilot and doing all the things. So if you start your day off with that, you're more likely to actually do it versus if you're like, I'll do it later, because life comes in and it just gets, put to the side. Just a reminder too, like if you're doing PQ reps, if you're doing it inside the app with the gym, it will automatically record that. It's going to start adding that to the total, like you're going to build muscle, you'll hear about that. But you can also record if you do anything that's like mindfulness focused brain self-command work that's outside of the app, you can add those in. So when you go in the app, you can click on PQ, the PQ gym, and then at the top there's a add reps from outside the app. So you can do that there as well. So like if you have a meditation practice or you're doing like for the example that you used, Gina, like you're driving to work and you're feeling the steering wheel, you can go in and add that as time spent doing PQ reps, even though it wasn't inside the app. So give yourself credit for all of those things because those are all building your practice. I also want to point out some new challenges. So inside the PQ gym, as you build your level, which is coming, but as you do more and you get stronger, it actually will unlock some extra different kinds of PQ reps. So my favorite kind of PQ rep isn't unlocked yet, but it will unlock. And when you get there, I'm excited about it. The other thing is there is in some weeks of modules, there's an Explore More tab. So there is one for week 1. These are all optional, but they are really great, helpful additional information. But if you look in week 1, you can see essentials is the default, but there's another tab that says explore more. So like in week 1, there's a paper talking about the neuroscience of positive intelligence. There's a research foundation paper that tells you like what this is all based on. There's one that talks about, there's a video that talks about PQ reps versus meditation and what's similar and what's different. Is this denying or numbing our emotions? Like why I want to feel the negative, why can't I just feel the negative? Anyway, so these are like, if you're having a question or you're like, I want more information, always check that explore more. And honestly, the ones that are in week 1 are really good extra information. So I highly recommend going to that when you're just looking for a little bit more like of the why, or you're wondering like, I don't know, I have a question about this. See if there's something in Explore More that answers that. So, and then the audiobook as a reminder is available. It's not a requirement. Chapters 1 through 8 just go in more depth. So it's there if you want to use that. Okay, let's go to these pod questions. So I want to start with these first 2, which is what's your biggest takeaway from this week's module? And if you didn't get through the module, you could also just be like, what is the biggest thing that is sticking with you of what's happened so far? It could be a good thing, a bad thing, a question, whatever. And then what area of work or life do you see PQ reps and self-command being particularly helpful for? So using this practice of self-command, where might that be really beneficial for you? So we'll start with those 2 questions. So I'll start, Gina, with you.
I think the biggest takeaway is actually something we talk about a lot at work is that your body is the biggest like weapon that you can use against your brain. And so I think that all of these little like PQ reps is just like bringing your attention back to your body and taking it away from your thoughts. So I thought that was interesting. And I think it's just like the practice of being able to do these in times of upset or stress. So like when you're about to get or when you're in an argument, can you make space by like rubbing your fingers together? Can you use it to like take a breath versus like perpetuating the storm and all these like negative thoughts?
Yes, I love that. Gina.
Michael.
Can you kind of repreface the question? Did you hear me?
Can you see it on the screen?
Oh no, hold on.
Can
okay.
everybody else see it?
I was
Okay.
just slid over to the group view.
Yep.
Um,
I just want to make sure. Sometimes they'll like I stop share accidentally and I don't even realize it. So I just want to make sure you still see it.
you know, I maybe got through half the video. So really just not ruminating in the pain and stress and anxiety and upset and getting quicker to over that hurdle into solutions, or like a mindset of, you know, okay, got that response, good to know, now what am I going to do about it? And then I guess having some sort of practice or structure to like have you do the shift. That is like, I know I need to shift out of this rumination or whatever. I know better, but I don't do it anyways. Having some type of practice or some type of like simple tool kind of cause that barrier from stopping this, and now we're going to start doing this.
So tell me like where specifically in life. So I want to pull down because I'm gonna lean back on last week when you were like, okay, don't let me just like say the thing, right? So I'm gonna do that right now. So you just said a really nice answer, but it is not very concrete.
Can you give
So
an example?
yes, like so what area of life or work will it be helpful to have that practice to do something simple that gets you out of the negative spiral?
Okay. Like, can I give an example or?
Yep, that's what I'm asking for. Like, give me a specific
Okay,
example.
so like I did a 3-day silent meditation retreat like 2 months ago, and I'm going through divorce, and I was hating my wife for what she did. And I got all the warm and fuzzies, no suffering, Buddhism, blah, blah, blah. I get done with the silent meditation retreat. I go to speak with her, and within 15 minutes, I'm like pissed at her, and all the upset comes back. And everything I just trained myself and knew to do to have peace was out the window, and I was just default right back into my ordinary ways of doing life.
Yeah. So in when you are in a situation that triggers impatience or triggers frustration or triggers whatever it is in that moment would be a way that this could help.
And then I was like, I caught myself, and I was like, of course, I just knew to do all this stuff, but I couldn't stop being upset with her. And I couldn't stop just like being like, how could you do this to me and us and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So like,
like to that point though, the intention here isn't to try to force yourself to not feel those negative things. The intention here is really just to pause that autopilot You can choose to go back to the autopilot, like give yourself that space. You know that's not where you eventually want to be, but part of the reason why it can be hard to move out of saboteur patterns is because when we see them happening, we'll either dig in and be like, yep, this is just how it's going to be, or we'll try to fight it and be like, oh, stop being like this. But
Mhm.
both of those are actually just using more saboteur muscles. So the
Mhm.
intention of PQ reps and self-command is to create some neutral space. So you're not trying to force yourself into positive. All that your only goal with doing these is to create neutral. So taking something of like, you feel the negative hitting you, rather than trying to be like, stop being negative, or don't, just let that go, or leaning into it and being like, yeah, I'm justified to feel this way. In that moment, the only thing that you're trying to practice is finding a little bit of neutral. After the neutral, you can decide which direction you're going to go, but just practicing that neutral. So when you feel that trigger happening, rather than being like, I'm going to lean in, or I'm going to try to force myself to not be upset, in that moment, I'm just going to practice some of these neutral activities, a PQ rep. I'm going to rub my fingers together. I'm going to focus on my breath. I'm going to listen for sound. And that's my practice. Whether or not I keep going back to the negative or not, just practicing neutral first. I
Okay.
promise you that focusing on neutral first is going to actually get you all to the goal of positive more quickly than trying to force the positive. Your brain will not respond long term to forcing the positive, but creating the neutral, it will respond to. So even if it doesn't make sense, trust me, neuroscience wise and how PQ is set up, finding the neutral is really powerful. Even if
Okay.
you go back to the negative, that neutral is interruption of the autopilot.
Okay.
Cool. All right, you pick who goes next.
Okay. Uh, Miles?
Okay. For the first question, I think my biggest it was kind of like I think my biggest takeaway was that this is something a lot like a muscle. I like the gym analogy that he used, but like to kind of build up to that point. And honestly, it kind of makes me feel better in a way that this is not supposed to be like an instant thing. This is something you can work up to. And like the gym is like, you can't, you're not going to get muscles within a week or anything like that, but you will see some type of change and it's going to be gradual. But it just kind of makes me feel better knowing that this is something that if you keep working at, you'll eventually get to no matter what. For number two, my area of work or life do you see PQ reps and self command being particularly helpful to you? I think is when I think it kind of like what Michael kind of mentioned this, but like or what he did mention was kind of like ruminating into your own negative thoughts or in terms of different situations or even times even when I'm like I find myself frustrated or getting anxious, especially when my toddler is throwing a temper tantrum and I don't have any idea of what to do, and that necessarily in that moment of time. But just like having command of my mind and a PQ rep to like what you mentioned as well as to be in that neutral and then hopefully get to more of a better mindset, not necessarily completely positive, but just better.
Yeah, that's awesome. And really, mirror neurons, which you'll hear about them multiple times through this, but mirror neurons are these things in our brains that we, without trying, we start to mimic what's happening around us, right? So if your toddler's having a meltdown, there's a part of our brain that even though we're adults and we know we can't have a meltdown, there's a part that will just automatically be like, oh, frustration is the response right now. And so then we like can just autopilot into that. And we may not be throwing a tantrum like the kid is throwing the tantrum, but we are automatically feeding off of that like negative space. So even just taking that breath and reminding yourself, like, of course I don't know what to do. I've never been in this situation before. And I want my kid to be happy and I want to feel like I'm being a good parent. I don't know how to do that right now. Like, okay. Even finding space to be like, okay, I don't have to respond. I don't have to fix it instantly. Even a short breath can make a big difference because you're giving your brain some space instead of just doing the autopilot response. So I love that. It's great.
Jeanette.
I think I kind of resonated a little bit with what everyone was saying, where sometimes things can happen when you're communicating with your kids that can throw you off track, and you might say it the wrong way and you might need something to center you. I did resonate the most with what I already mentioned, the self-command and trying to just get out of that zone that makes you feel like, why me? Or this is annoying, this is frustrating. And also with communicating with her and having a healthier co-parenting situation. But fortunately and unfortunately, I am way too witty. So I say a lot of things right in the moment and I have to, I get it off my head. But it has been a lot better to just cancel it out and not get stuck in that, because it'll crash out my day and I need to be more productive. I need to not let other things affect me because I'm reacting to something else. Do you know what I mean? Oversharing. Welcome.
Not oversharing, and you don't have to qualify it, right? Like, right, we like, how many of you can identify with something goes a way that we wish it wasn't going, and that it impacts not just that moment, but what happens next or how we feel moving into our day? It happens all the time. Somebody cuts you off in the car, that person keeps driving and they're at their destination, but you're still upset about it. And now you're mad and you go into work or you go into your next thing and you're like, oh, why are people like this? Like, that driver doesn't care anymore. They're on with their life, but you're not. Like, that's normal. That's part of the pattern we're trying to break, right? To not let those things impact us unless they're things that really deserve to be impacting us that way. So it totally makes sense. Okay, so so we talked about this. So just prepping for next week, continue doing. So the daily focus started yesterday. So that's that morning focus, and then 2 practices throughout the day. Those recharge sessions are going to give you a lot of practical ways to apply the things you're learning. So again, I really recommend being in there and making those your priority. You will actually find the biggest transformation by consistently doing the morning and the recharges, even more than listening to all of the material. I want you to do both. They're both going to help you. But the practice, getting in the habit of listening to that thing and then doing the recharge sessions, is going to have a even greater impact on creating new habits. So make sure that that's a priority. This coming week, so on Friday, week 2's module, which is about the judge, is going to unlock. He will also give you some heads up about it, but I just also want to do this and let you know. So there's going to be, you'll learn about the judge, and then you'll have 2 options for exploring your own judge. One is a visualization and one is a contemplation. If you have a lot of trauma in your background, if there's anything that has been really difficult in your background, and you find that triggers some very negative responses in your life, please reach out to me before you do the module. I don't want to scare you. It isn't like, it's not insurmountable, but I just want you to be ready for it. And he'll also guide you if that's you and you don't feel like it's significant enough that you want to talk to me about it, but you know, like, oh, I'm a little bit worried that I'm going to get triggered. My recommendation is that you start with a contemplation before the visualization. So they're both really powerful exercises. they aren't absolutely going to trigger you, but we just want to give a heads up if there are things that have been really traumatic for you. Just reach out to me and we'll talk about like the best way to approach that so that this doesn't set you back or doesn't, whatever. Basically, what could happen if we don't talk about that and you have big trauma is that instead of like leaning in, it could make you lean out, and that's not what we want. There's a way to go through it, even with trauma, that will help you lean in and feel safe. So just want to give a heads up about that. Any questions before we wrap up for today? Yeah, Gina.
So each module for the week starts on Friday and we have to complete it by Tuesday. That's correct?
Correct.
Got
Yep.
it. Just want to make
Yep.
sure.
Yep, you got the timing. And then the focus of the day and the recharges will unlock every day. So you'll have new ones of those every day. They will follow along with the content, will follow along with whatever the focus is for that week. So the intention is that those are helping you to integrate what you learned from the modules into daily life. Cool. Good question. Any other questions?
I'm not sure if I sent it right, but did you get my PQ score?
I think that I did. I'll have to go back and look, but I think I got it.
Okay.
If I didn't, I'll reach out to you, but I think I got yours.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Is a PQ score the same as a SAGE score or different?
Yeah, yes, it's the PQ score measures your SAGE versus Saboteur. So that's the one that gives you the number of like what percentage were you in SAGE versus Saboteur. That's that one. So it's different from the Saboteur assessment, which gives you the names of your saboteurs.
Right.
The PQ score is how much were you in SAGE versus Saboteur mind in general.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so Michael will just look for your goal posted inside the pod inside there, and then everybody's got their thoughts and action plans of how you're going to integrate and do the modules for this coming week. If you have questions or need anything else, please just reach out to me. But I'm excited. I love all the goals that you guys are setting. I like the things that you're already starting to realize. We're only in week 1 and there's already some good connections, and what's happening in your mind and how you're processing this. So keep at it and remind yourself that you don't have to practice perfectly. You just have to practice consistently. So, all right. See everybody next week.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.